thanks, I'd tell Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan when Mum invited them in. I was just doing my job. Dad's got this fab pencil sharpener clamped to his desk. It makes pencils sharp enough to puncture body armour. H pencils are sharpest. They're Dad's faves. I prefer 2Bs. The doorbell went. I put the blind back to how it was, checked I'd left no other traces of my incursion, slipped out and flew downstairs to see who it was. The last 6 steps I took in one death-defying bound. Moron, grinny zitty as ever. His bum fluff's getting thicker, mind. You'll never guess what. What? You know the lake in the woods? What about it? It's only... Moron checked that we weren't being overheard. Gone and froze solid. Half the kids in the village are there right now. Ace dorsal what? Jason, Mum appeared from the kitchen. You're letting the cold in. Either invite Dean inside, hello, Dean, or shut the door. Just going out for a bit, Mum. Where? Just for some healthy fresh air. That was a strategic mistake. What are you up to? I wanted to say nothing, but Hangman decided not to let me. Why would I be up to anything? I avoided her stare as I put on my navy duffel coat. What's your new black parka done to offend you, may I ask? I still couldn't say nothing. Truth is, black means you fancy yourself as a hard knock. Adults can't be expected to understand. My duffel's a bit warmer, that's all. It's parky out. Lunch is 1 o'clock sharp. Mum went back to changing the Hoover bag. Dad's coming home to eat. Put on a woolly hat or your head'll freeze. Woolly hats are gay, but I could stuff it in my pocket later. Goodbye then, Mrs. Taylor, said Moron. Goodbye, Dean, said Mum. Mum's never liked Moron. Moron's my height, and he's okay, but Jesus, he pongs of gravy. Moron wears ankle flappers from charity shops and lives down Drugger's End in a brick cottage that pongs of gravy too. His real name's Dean Moran, rhymes with Warren, but our PE teacher, Mr. Carver, started calling him Moron in our first week, and it stuck. I call him Dean if we're on our own, but names aren't just names. Kids who are really popular get called by their first names, so Nick Hughes always just Nick. Kids who are a bit popular, like Gilbert Swynyard, have sort of respectful nicknames like Yardy. Next down are kids like me who call each other by our surnames. Below us are kids with piss-take nicknames like Moran Moron or Nicholas Breyer, who's Nicholas Braw. It's all ranks, being a boy, like the army. If I called Gilbert Swynyard just Swynyard, he'd kick my face in. Or if I called Moron Dean in front of everyone, it'd damage my own standing. So you've got to watch out. Girls don't do this so much, except for Don Madden, who's a boy gone wrong in some experiment. Girls don't scratch so much as boys either. That said, just before school broke up for Christmas, Don Madden and Andrea Bozard started yelling bitch and slag in the bus queues after school, punching tits and pulling hair and everything they were. Wish I'd been born a girl sometimes. They're generally loads more civilized. But if I ever admitted that out loud, I'd get bumhole plumber scrawled on my locker. That happened to Floyd Chasely for admitting he liked Johann Sebastian Bach. Mind you, if they knew Elliot Bolivar, who gets poems published in Black Swan Green Parish magazine, was me, they'd gouge me to death behind the tennis courts with blunt woodwork tools and spray the Sex Pistols logo on my gravestone. So anyway, as Moron and I walked to the lake, he told me about the Skeletrix he'd got for Christmas. On Boxing Day, its transformer blew up and nearly wiped out his entire family. Yeah, sure, I said, but Moron swore it on his nan's grave, so I told him he should write to That's Life on BBC and get Esther Ranson to make the manufacturer pay compensation. Moron thought that might be difficult, 'cause his dad had bought it off a brummie at Tewkesbury Market on Christmas Eve. I didn't dare ask what a brummie was in case it's the same as bummer or bumboy, which means homo. Yeah, I said. See what you mean. Moron asked me what I'd got for Christmas. I'd actually got £13.50 in book tokens and a poster of Middle-earth. But books are gay, so I talked about The Game of Life, which I'd got from Uncle Brian and Aunt Alice. It's a board game you win by getting your little car to the end of the road of life first, and with the most money. We crossed the crossroads by the Black Swan and went into the woods. Wished I'd rubbed ointment into my lips, 'cause they get chapped when it's this cold. Soon we heard kids through the trees, shouting and screaming. "Last one to the lakes, a spaz!" yelled Moron, herring off before I was ready. Straight off, he tripped over a frozen tyre rut, went flying, and landed on his arse. Trust Moron. "I think I might have got a concussion," he said. "Concussion's if you hit your head, unless your brain's up your arse." What a line! Pity nobody who matters was around to hear it. The lake in the woods was epic. Tiny bubbles were trapped in the ice like in Fox's Glacier Mints. Neil Brose had proper Olympic ice skates he hired out for 5p a go, though Pete Redmarley was allowed to use them for free so other kids would see him speed skating around and want to go too. Just staying up on the ice is hard enough. I fell over loads before I got the knack of sliding in my trainers. Ross Wilcox turned up with his cousin Gary Drake and Don Madden. All three are pretty good skaters. Drake and Wilcox are taller than me too now. They'd cut the fingers off of their gloves to show the scars they'd got playing Scabby Queen. Mum'd murder me. Squelch sat on the humpy island in the middle of the lake where the ducks normally live, shouting, "Arse over tit! Arse over tit!" at whoever fell over. Squelch is funny in the head, 'cause he was born too early, so nobody ever thumps him one. Not hard, anyway. Grant Birch rode his servant Philip Phelps's Raleigh chopper actually on the ice. He kept his balance for a few seconds, but when he pulled a wheelie, the bike went flying. After it landed, it looked like Uri Geller had tortured it to death. Phelps grinned sickly. Bet he was wondering what he'd tell his dad. Then Pete Redmarley and Grant Birch decided the frozen lake would be perfect for British bulldogs. Nick Hughes said, "OK, I'm on for that." So it was decided. I hate British bulldogs. When Miss Throckmorton banned it at our primary school after Lee Biggs lost 3 teeth playing it, I was dead relieved. But this morning, any kid who denied loving British bulldogs would have looked a total ponce. Especially kids from up Kingfisher Meadows like me. About 20 or 25 of us boys, plus Don Madden, stood in a bunch to be picked like slaves in a slave market. Grant Birch and Nick Hugh were joint captains of one team. Pete Redmarley and Gilbert Swinyard were the captains of the other. Ross Wilcox and Gary Drake both got picked before me by Pete Redmarley, but I got picked by Grant Birch on the 6th pass, which wasn't embarrassingly late. Moron and Squelched were the last two left. Grant Birch and Pete Redmarley joked, "No, you can have 'em both. We want to win." And Moron and Squelch had to laugh, like they thought it was funny too. Maybe Squelch really did. Moron didn't. When everyone looked away, he had the same face as that time after we all told him we were playing hide-and-seek and sent him off to hide. It took an hour for him to work out nobody was looking for him. Nick Hugh won the toss, so us lot were the runners first, and Pete Redmarley's team were the Bulldogs. Unimportant kids' coats were put at either end of the lake as goal mouths to reach through and to defend. Girls, apart from Don Madden and the little ones, were cleared off the ice. Redmarley's Bulldogs formed a pack in the middle, and us runners slid to our starting goal. My heart was drumming now. Bulldogs and runners crouched like sprinters. The captains led the chant. "British Bulldogs, 1, 2, 3!" Screaming like kamikazes, we charged. I slipped over, accidentally on purpose, just before the front wave of runners smashed into the Bulldogs. This had tie up most of the hardest Bulldogs in fights with our front runners. Bulldogs have to pin down both shoulders of runners onto the ice for long enough to shout, "British Bulldogs, 1, 2, 3."